All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly unprecedented, a moment that literally shook the tech world to its core. We're talking about the sudden, aggressive shutdown of Anthropic's Claude Fable 5 by the US government. We're going to break down exactly how a highly anticipated product launch morphed into a massive national security intervention, basically overnight. It's a wild story, so let's get into it. 72 hours. Just think about that for a second. That is all the time that passed between Anthropic launching their state-of-the-art model to the public and the government forcefully pulling the plug. Imagine downloading the hottest new app on a Friday, and by Monday, it's federally banned. I mean, in the tech world, 72 hours is barely enough time to squash launch day bugs, let alone trigger a sweeping global export control directive. Part 1, the 72-hour shutdown. Let's walk through the exact sequence of this crazy weekend. So the timeline here is absolutely crucial to understand how fast this escalated. On June 9th, Fable 5 hits the market. Massive hype, right? Get this. The very next day, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei actually publishes an essay actively calling for government oversight of AI. And then the irony strikes. On Friday, June 12th, at exactly 5:21 p.m. Eastern Time, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick delivers a directive ordering Anthropic to immediately suspend all access to the model for any foreign national anywhere in the world. Here's the catch, though. Anthropic couldn't technically verify the nationality of its users at the model level. They couldn't magically separate a foreign national in the U.S. from a U.S. citizen. So, forced into a corner, they had to drop this blunt message on everyone globally. Millions of paying enterprise customers, subscribers, researchers just instantly cut off and left completely confused. Part 2. What was Fable 5? Before we get into the actual controversy, we really need to understand the tech that got shut down. You see, Fable 5 wasn't just another everyday chatbot. It was built on this highly advanced architecture known as the Mythos class. And before Fable 5 was ever public, that underlying technology was already quietly working in a controlled program called Project Glasswing. This program basically gave trusted, vetted organizations structured access to the AI so they could find and fix critical software vulnerabilities. Mozilla, for example, used this to resolve hundreds of flaws. It was a massive win for defensive cybersecurity. So, to put it simply, Mythos 5 was the unfiltered engine reserved solely for those Project Glasswing participants. It had reduced constraints so they could do that deep, complex defensive work. Fable 5, on the other hand, was the showroom model. It was meant to be the safe, public-facing version. Anthropic added strict classifiers designed specifically to suppress high-risk cybersecurity outputs. They essentially wanted to give the public the power, but without the danger. And what makes the government stepping in so surprising is what actually happened before launch. Anthropic didn't just blindly throw this onto the internet. They put Fable 5 through thousands of hours of intense red teaming, which is basically authorized aggressive hacking to test its limits. And they did this alongside the US government and the UK AI Security Institute. Their joint conclusion? They found absolutely zero universal jailbreaks. No single method could broadly bypass the model's safeguards. Part 3. The jailbreak dispute. Let's get to the core of the conflict. Okay, so what actually triggered the panic? According to the reports, and keeping in mind previous pressure from the Trump administration, the government freaked out over a highly specific, complex exploit. We're not talking about a simple copy-paste trick here. It was a multi-step attack. Hackers would fragment a harmful request using Unicode characters and Cyrillic substitutions, basically using foreign alphabets to disguise the bad instructions so they looked perfectly benign to the safety filters. Once past the guards, the output was reassembled outside the AI to analyze a specific codebase for vulnerabilities. It was a highly targeted, incredibly elaborate digital heist. And this brings us to a massive fundamental clash. On one side, the government is taking a zero-tolerance stance. Any bypass that lets an AI analyze code for flaws is an unacceptable national security risk in the wrong hands. On the other side, Anthropic argues from technical reality. They say this is a narrow, non-universal jailbreak. They point out that perfect, 100% resistance is literally impossible for any model right now. Because of that, layered defense in depth is the only strategy that actually works in the real world. Plus, Anthropic pushed back with a pretty compelling counterpoint. They highlighted a glaring contradiction. Even if you went through the trouble to successfully execute this crazy complex jailbreak on Fable 5, the information you got out of it was basically comparable to defensive capabilities you can already access completely freely and without a jailbreak right now on competitor models like OpenAI's GPT 5.5. Because for Anthropic, this isn't just about losing a few days of revenue. It's about the precedent.
If you recall a massive commercial product over a non-universal jailbreak that just spits out results competitors already offer, well, that creates an impossible standard. No current AI model could pass it. It would effectively freeze the entire AI industry in its tracks.
Part 4. The Missing AI Rulebook. This whole mess exposes a huge gap in how we govern advanced tech. The fallout from this June 12th directive was massive. It left the industry staring at 4 critical, totally unanswered questions. First, what is the actual technical standard separating a safe model from an unsafe one? We still don't know. Second, the scope. Why do a blanket ban on foreign nationals that inadvertently cuts off U.S. researchers? Third, why penalize one U.S. company when the exact same tech is freely available from competitors? And fourth, and this is a big one, why did this mandate force the suspension of Project Glasswing, shutting down the vetted good guys?
Honestly, the irony here is just off the charts. Remember how Dario Amodi published that essay? He actually agrees the government should have the authority to block dangerous AI. He specifically compared it to the FAA's power to ground unsafe airplanes. Anthropic isn't saying the government shouldn't act. They're fundamentally contesting how they acted in this specific instance.
Because here's the fatal flaw in the FAA analogy. The FAA grounds planes based on specific, testable, publicly published criteria. Boeing knows exactly what test to pass. But in the AI world, there are no equivalent standards. The government acted under broad national security authority without handing Anthropic a single published technical benchmark they could actually aim to satisfy. And the absolute most tragic collateral damage of dismissing rulebook, it's Project Glasswing. By demanding a shutdown that hit the underlying model architecture, the government accidentally blinded its own allies. Vetted American organizations doing crucial, defensive cybersecurity work had their tools yanked away without warning. In their rush to stop an offense, the government literally dismantled the defense.
So what does this all mean? June 12th proved that frontier AI is now undeniably a matter of national security, but it also proved we are flying completely blind. As AI capabilities accelerate, how do we survive this digital Wild West when the tech is evolving exponentially faster than our ability to write the rules? And more importantly, who gets caught in the crossfire next time? Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and keep questioning the systems that shape our future.